Welcome everybody to another Indie Dev Showcase video here on the channel. These videos are the recaps of our weekly Wednesday night streams, and we'll be taking a look at 6 very different indie games tonight. As always, if you'd like to submit a game for a future stream, please get in touch, and unless otherwise noted, all these games were played with press keys provided by the developers. So to get things started, we are beginning with Circadian City. This was played a few months ago and is currently in early access. So the general concept here is Stardew Valley, I guess, Millennial Edition. You play a character who is moving to the big city in order to kind of find themselves, but of course discovers that corporate life may not be the best for them. And the game itself kind of plays out like a mishmash of Stardew Valley and other kind of slice-of-life sim-style games. You have, of course, your stamina bar, you'll gain skills and stat points by performing tasks, and of course you're going to have to talk, befriend, and learn all about the various citizens around you. Now, the one unique thing about Circadian City that you saw kind of at the start of this video is that you have this kind of like internal dream world that represents yourself. And as you do more in the real world, it'll basically make you a better person and allow you to upgrade and change how that world behaves. It's an interesting idea. My problem that I had with this game when we were playing this a few months ago is that it kind of still feels like a rougher, kind of jankier version of Stardew Valley, especially in terms of exploring the city and just your general tasks to do. And again, keep in mind this game is in early access, and I'm sure they've worked on a lot of this, especially the onboarding department, since we last looked at it. So, at the moment, I would say that if you are looking for another Stardew Valley-esque kind of game, then give this one a check. But if the whole Stardew Valley, farming, slice of life sim didn't work for you, then this game, I think, may not do enough at the moment to convince you otherwise to check out this genre. For the next game, we have Sands of Salzaar. And this is one of those games that I think it's going to be either very much a hit or miss for you. And what this is essentially like a open, massive world RPG. Some people have described it as very much like Mount and Blade. So you're in a desert world trying to find your way around. You're given 100% complete free reign to do whatever the heck you want. You have full character customization. There is a faction system. Again, this is just a massive space. And if you do look up this game on Steam, it does have English localization, even though I think it's still shown in another language, at least on when I check it on my Steam. So, the issue that I think this game has is that it is very much that open world, kind of like the kind of grand open space sim genre, where you're dropped down, the game just says, do whatever you want, and then just leaves you alone. Combat, as you can see, is real time, and I hire essentially an army of attack wolves to help me out in combat. And your characters will, of course, level up. You'll gain new skills. You can buy new skills, upgrade them. There's even, I believe, a prestige mode where you can restart, but choose kind of like extra powerful classes. And again, this is not my kind of genre. I'm not a fan of the whole, just throw everything at the player and see if they stick around kind of design. But I know several of you right now do love the Mount and Blade, free roam, find your own path kind of gameplay. And if you do enjoy that, definitely give this one a check. So I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with it. If you don't like it, then then this game is probably not for you, especially in terms of onboarding. But when we looked at this several months ago, I know they have released several patches and they are still working on the game right now, so things may have improved since then. Our next game comes with some unusual drama attached to it. This is Against the Moon, and this is a deck builder style roguelike. And the weird thing about it is that at the time of this recording, the game has apparently been pulled off of Steam, and there has not been any real information about what happened other than the fact that it has something to do with their publisher. So, the reason why we're still covering is that it is still available on GOG, but again, I don't know what is exactly going on behind the scenes. Now, when we played this was about like 5-6 months ago, the game was still in early access. I don't know if it's still considered that or not, but reviews seem to say that it was released and not in the best condition. So the story basically follows us trying to fight back against the moon, as the title implies, that sends monsters and such to try and take us out. Now, as you can see by the combat here, we're dealing with 3 lanes, and you are free to place characters on it provided you have enough mana wherever the energy is. Each character or kind of hero unit also has special abilities that can be activated, and your goal is to take out your opponent before, of course, they take you down. And you can only attack the enemy if you either do enough damage that eats through their defenses, or you just attack an empty lane. Now, the one kind of unique thing to Against the Moon in terms of itself as a deck builder is that during the course of a campaign, you can upgrade your cards. And the upgrades go in these different evolutionary paths, so you can decide essentially how you want this character to behave going forward. And it does provide kind of like legitimately different strategies, and that's a pretty nice feature. With that said though, the combat felt a little bit on the basic side. And as with games of this kind, momentum and tempo are the name of the game. If you start falling behind, you may not be able to put out enough units to kind of cancel out the enemy who has an overwhelming advantage. And the aesthetics are okay, but there's definitely a lack of animation. As you saw the characters like shooting these like nondescript bolts at each other. But it was an interesting game, and like I said, it is available on GOG. I know they are planning an expansion, but again, I have no idea what is happening with this game on Steam and whether or not it will be back, or even if it will be back by the time you're watching this video. So, with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at 3 more games for the spotlight. And now for a quick thank you to our current Patreon supporters. And if you're interested in my books on design, they are available at most major retailers. 20 Essential Games to Study is for first-time developers looking to be inspired, and the Game Design Deep Dive series covers the history and philosophy of major genres, with horror coming later in 2021. For our next game, we turn to a completely different kind of game with Undercat. So, despite the very cute pixel art and delightful name, this is a title about a dystopian future where, after living in peace, cat people have decided to become the dominant group in a city and have now turned dogs into second-class citizens and possibly slaves. Yeah, it got very dark in this game kind of quickly, didn't it? So we play as part of the rebel resistance, and it's up to us to find items that we need, shake and throw characters as we need to, and try and get out of each area while clicking the items that we can get. So the big thing about this is that you have the ability to sniff, and sniffing allows you to find potential clues, hidden collectibles. You get the picture. Now, from the demo that you're seeing here, you could only play this, I think, as one character. Oh, and you can also pee on devices, as you saw there. But the game does promise that it will be, I think it's local and split-screen co-op and competitive play. So this one is kind of an interesting one. I'm assuming if you're a cat lover, this may not be the game for you. But the platforming was on point. Each level does have different objectives. There are boss fights and things along those lines. And this looks like this could be a very interesting platformer when it is released. Now, whether or not the story gets any darker than what I just described, that remains to be seen. But otherwise, I would say give this one a look as a fan of platformers. With that, we turn to Knightin Plus. And this is a self-described Zelda-like. Not a roguelike, but a Zelda-like. As you can probably tell by the fact that we are dungeon crawling from a kind of isometric perspective, or top-down. So the story is that we are a knight and, well, we are looking for loot and treasure. And to do that, we're going to go into various dungeons and beat things up and find upgrades. So if you've played any of the classic Zelda or, Link to the Past and so on, then this game should be very familiar to you. So each map is handmade, and your job is to get through the dungeon, find whatever collectible upgradable item there is, and use that to beat up the boss and get out with the loot. Now, the puzzles kind of vary in terms of difficulty and annoyance. There's a lot of Sokoban box moving puzzles, there's, enter in the correct pattern puzzles, etc, etc. Now, on the positive side, you can actually kill enough enemies to get bonus keys to skip puzzles. On the negative, there's only a fixed number of those keys per dungeon. So if you get stuck at like 2 or 3 puzzles, you are kind of in trouble. The game appears to be on the short side. I think there was only like 5 or 6 dungeons, I forget since the last time I played it. And this is definitely one that is for the fans. If you have no love lost between the classic dungeon crawling Zelda style, then Knightin Plus is not going to work for you. But if you're looking for another one of those games in that specific vein, give this one a check. It is on the cheap side, or is on the lower price side, so it may be worth it for an afternoon or two. I forgot to mention that Undercat was played as a demo, and so is our final game for this video. That is Orcs. And this is a very interesting one. It is kind of a tabletop meets tower defense meets roguelike city builder in a weird way. So our concept here is that you need to create your kingdom using these cards. As you can see, cards have various costs to them. And your job is to set up paths and structures to basically create a resource system for your town. Or, for your kingdom. You can spend gold or move things along to get new cards. And by combining or setting up correct paths, you can create fortresses, towers, battlements, and so on. Now, after enough time has passed, the, titled orcs will invade. And you'll need to use military units as well as your defenses to kill them before they take out your town. Now, when we played the demo of this, I was terrible at it. And I think the game could use a little bit more explanation about how the whole wall and battlement system works in terms of setting things up to get these defenses, because that is a major point about this game. While your infantry units can be upgraded and healed, you definitely need to have these battlements in place and understand how they all fit if you want to survive against these rampaging hordes, as you can see here. The finished version promises not only different scenarios, but also you can choose a different kind of character or faction that affects bonuses and I believe cards as well. And the game reminds me a little bit of The Last Spell, in that it definitely seems to be on the harder side until you learn the intricacies of the mechanics. But with that said, there was definitely something special about this one. And if you are looking for that kind of, very different mix of genres, then keep an eye out for Orcs. I don't know when it is released at this time, but I believe the demo may still be up for it. So with that said, we're going to wrap up this week's Spotlight here. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you want to catch these live, the Indie Dev Showcase streams are Wednesday nights, And if you are interested in submitting a game for that or for our Indie Game Store page review show, please get in touch. As always, check out our Discord and Patreon link down below, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.